Did you know all principles are microcosms of each other? Which means if a principle is true in one area, it's also true in another area. This is why Jesus was able to teach in parables and Solomon was able to attain wisdom from everyday life. So in this video, we're going to look at the parable of the talents. Now, talents means different things in different situations. See, in the Old Testament, it meant one thing. In the New Testament, it means something else. And today, we use it completely different than the way they used it back then. See, in the Old Testament, the word talent appears when describing how much gold the Israelites used to build the tabernacle. It was a unit of measurement for weighing precious metals like silver and gold, and it weighed about 75 pounds. Now, the scripture says in Exodus 38:24, all the gold that was used for the work and all the construction of the sanctuary, the gold from the offering was 29 talents and 730 shekels by the shekel of the sanctuary. A talent was about 75 pounds or 34 kilograms, and a shekel was about 2/5 of an ounce or 11 grams. That's 29 talents. That's over 2,000 pounds of gold. Now, in the New Testament, the word meant something different. And from the Greek word, it was a large monetary measurement equal to 6,000 denarii. The denarius was a standard silver Roman coin equal to a day's wages. And the Romans, remember, were ruling over Jerusalem at the time of Jesus. So they minted the coins that were used during that time in that area. Now today, when we use the word talent, we're talking about natural aptitude or skill. And the word talent today suggests a marked natural ability that needs to be developed. So let's dive into the actual parable of the talents. For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to one 1, and to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now, after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, "You delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into your master's joy." And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward saying, "Master, you delivered to me 2 talents here. I have made 2 talents more." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into your master's joy." So check this out. One was given 5, the other one was given 2, and they both made 100% return. So what you do with a little, you would do with a lot. And faithfulness leads to more opportunities. And the scripture goes on, he also who had received the 1 talent came forward saying, "Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid. I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, half what is yours." But his master answered him, "You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered no seed." A point I want to stick out here is the part where he says, "You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered no seed." There's the planting, which is the sowing. There's the harvest, which is the reaping. Then there's the gathering, which is the glean. And there's scattering, which is a willow. So let's look at these bottom 2, because sowing seed, that's putting the seed actually into the ground. So the master did not put the seed directly into the ground himself. And the master did not harvest the crops himself either. So let's look at the gather part and what that means. When you reap the harvest, this is in Leviticus 19:9-10. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap your fields right up to its edge. Neither shall you gather the gleaning after your harvest. And you shall not strip your vineyard bare. Neither shall you gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and for the sojourner. I am the Lord your God. So this is God talking to the Israelites. And he's saying to let the poor and the sojourner, which is a guest or a traveler or foreigner, or what they say in the King James Version, a stranger, all the same thing. Let them glean from their fields after the harvest. So what about the willow? Because it says where I have scattered no seed. A lot of times people hear scattering seed and they think that you're just talking about just tossing the seed out into the fields. But that's not what it is. Willow was a process to remove the unwanted coverings of seeds from the grain by throwing the grain up into the air and letting the wind blow the unwanted parts away. Now harvesters willowed the chaff from the wheat. As they tossed the grain, it was scattered, separating the seeds. So it says, Master, I knew you would be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gather where you scattered no seed. And then the master repeated it back to him. He said, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered no seed. So when you look at it on this diagram here, you see that on the right side where he harvested and gleaned, those are the benefit side. But then there's the plant and the sowing and the scatter. That's the work side. How does he get the benefits without doing his actual work himself? Well, here it goes. The answer is he used his mind to circulate the seed. See, he didn't plant the seed himself. No. What he did was he created opportunities. When he gave the seed to people he deemed responsible, because remember, it was originally the master's. When he gave the seed to people he deemed responsible with the expectation that they would do good with it. So that is the sowing, and that's how he was able to harvest without sowing. By creating the opportunities and giving it to the right people. Then there's the gleaning without the scattering. He used his mind to circulate the seed. He traveled and sought out people to give the opportunities to. Without the master giving the seed to the right people, no increase would take place. This kind of thinking required him to use his imagination. See, he didn't hoard what he received. No, he actually circulated it. And when he created opportunities and sought people, he sought people that had the capacity, which means they had the ability to do it, the time, which means they were capable of actually fulfilling it, the willingness, meaning they had to have some type of desire to actually do the thing, and then they had to have the character because he was trusting them to do it. And when you look in the other scriptures, it said that once the other two servants, he said that they were faithful and good. Okay, so then he goes on and says this to the slothful servant. He said, then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was mine own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. He called the servant who dug the hole lazy, because the servant decided to expend energy doing physical work rather than expending energy to do the mental work necessary to bring in an increase. I will say that again. He called the servant who dug the hole lazy, because the servant decided to expend energy doing physical work rather than expend the energy to do the mental work necessary to bring in an increase. So what you do with a little, you would do with a lot. And faithfulness leads to more opportunities, while unfaithfulness leads to lack. You see, our time is limited. The master didn't have a lot of time. Neither did the servants. But our creativity is not. See, the master used his creativity, and so too did the faithful servants. You have to recognize what you have been given and use your creativity to circulate it and produce more. If you're enjoying the video and haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. I am Roberto Swift, and I'll see you in the next one.